In a bustling city filled with musicians and artists, there lived a talented violinist named Luca. His music was like a river, smooth, flowing, and full of life. People would gather around him as he played on the crowded streets, completely captivated by the melody. They often applauded and praised him, calling him a genius. But one evening, while packing up after a long performance, Luca overheard two men whispering nearby. "That guy's overrated," one sneered. "His notes are sloppy sometimes." "Yeah," the other agreed. "People just clap because everyone else does." Luca's heart sank. He had never considered that people might be praising him just to fit in or be polite. Doubt gnawed at him like a hungry rat. Were his skills not as good as he thought? Determined to find the truth, Luca devised a plan. The next day, he went to the city square, where he usually performed, but this time, he left his violin on a wooden stool with a sign that read, "If you find any flaws in this violin or the way it's played, mark it with chalk." He then hid behind a nearby stall, watching. At first, people just glanced at the violin and moved on. But soon, a few curious onlookers stopped to read the sign. One man picked up a piece of chalk and drew a small X on the violin's body, saying, "The wood looks cheap." Another woman marked the strings, muttering, "They're too tight." A teenage boy added a mark near the bridge, complaining, "This part makes the sound too harsh." By evening, the once beautiful violin was covered with chalk marks, crosses, circles, and harsh words written directly on the wood. Luca felt as if every mark had been carved into his heart. Disheartened, he picked up his instrument and hurried home, wiping the chalk away as tears blurred his vision. For days, Luca couldn't bring himself to play. He questioned his talent and wondered if he had been fooling himself all along. One afternoon, his old mentor, a wise and patient man named Maestro Elio, visited him after hearing the news. "What's troubling you, Luca?" the maestro asked gently. Luca explained everything, the marks, the comments, and how his confidence had shattered. The old man listened quietly before speaking. "I want you to take your violin back to the same place," Maestro Elio suggested, "but this time, write a different message." Reluctantly, Luca followed his mentor's advice. He placed the violin on the stool once more, but now the sign read, "If you can improve the sound or make it better, please do so." Once again, Luca hid and watched. People stopped, read the sign, hesitated, and moved on. Some touched the violin, but none dared to change anything. By nightfall, the violin remained untouched, no new marks, no adjustments. Confused yet curious, Luca turned to his mentor, who had been watching alongside him. "Why didn't they fix it?" Luca asked. Maestro Elio smiled. "Because criticizing is easy, but improving requires skill and dedication. Most people point out flaws without the ability to make something better. Your music was never the problem. It was the people who lacked the ability to understand it." A heavy weight lifted from Luca's heart. He realized that his passion and talent didn't depend on the opinions of those who lacked insight or understanding. Inspired and encouraged, Luca returned to performing, pouring his soul into every note without fear of meaningless criticism. From that day on, Luca played not to please everyone but to share the music that came from his heart. He learned to value the opinions of those who truly understood his craft while letting go of empty judgments. The lesson was clear: it's far easier to criticize than to create. True talent isn't about pleasing everyone but about staying true to one's passion despite the noise of doubt and negativity.